Ivan Petrović came to London chasing a better life, but Angela Harris was chasing love, and when their worlds collided, it sparked a deadly game of lies, betrayal, and murder. What started as a romance built on hope ended as a calculated killing driven by greed, with a body at the bottom of a cliff and a trail of evidence leading straight to the man she thought would save her. Ivan Petrović arrived in London with nothing but a backpack and a burning desire to escape the life he left behind in Serbia. He was 26 years old, lean and good-looking in a rugged way, with sharp cheekbones and restless eyes that always seemed to be searching for something better. Back home, Ivan had worked odd jobs, construction, dishwashing, factory shifts, but there was never enough money, never enough of anything. His father was dead, his mother struggling, and his younger brother had fallen into trouble with local gangs. Ivan wanted more than survival. He wanted success, respect, money, and above all, freedom. And London, with its glittering skyline and endless promises, seemed like the place where that dream could finally come true. But the dream Ivan had pictured quickly fell apart. Without legal documents or a work visa, no one wanted to hire him. His English wasn't good, and what little cash he had was swallowed by cheap rent and expensive food. Days blurred into weeks of walking through the crowded streets, rejected from job after job, reduced to sleeping on a sagging mattress in a shared flat with other men like him. They all had the same hungry look in their eyes, the same stories of chasing something that always felt just out of reach. Soon Ivan learned the unspoken rule among undocumented migrants. If you can't work legally, you find another way to stay. For some, it was fake jobs with fake payslips. For others, it was arranged marriages. A legal marriage to a British citizen meant not just papers, it meant safety, the ability to build something permanent. Ivan had no interest in falling in love, but he was very interested in marrying his way into security. It was at this desperate point in his life that Ivan met Angela Harris. They crossed paths online through a dating app known for matching older women with younger foreign men. Angela was 49, divorced, living alone in a modest one-bedroom flat on the edge of London. Years of loneliness had softened her defenses, making her vulnerable to anyone offering warmth. Ivan messaged her one night with a clumsy compliment, and she responded with shy enthusiasm. Within days, they were speaking every evening, her laughing nervously, him charming, careful, calculating. Angela wasn't wealthy, but to Ivan, she was still a ticket out of misery. She worked in a small bakery, earning enough to get by, but not much more. Her life was predictable, quiet, a little sad. She told Ivan she had always dreamed of having someone by her side again, someone to share meals with, to go on walks with, to wake up next to. Ivan told her exactly what she wanted to hear. He spoke of starting fresh together, of love, of family. He promised her things he didn't believe himself, but that didn't matter. Angela fell fast and hard. For her, this felt like fate. For Ivan, it felt like survival. What neither of them knew was that this relationship would end in betrayal, tragedy, and murder. It was only the beginning. Angela was happier than she had been in years. Ivan's attention made her feel seen again, wanted in a way that she thought was behind her. She told her friends that age didn't matter when it came to love, and that Ivan was proof of that. In her mind, this was a real relationship, the kind she had always dreamed of but never quite found. After her divorce, life had slipped into dull routine, work, television, sleep. But now, things felt different. Ivan was handsome, foreign, exciting, and she enjoyed introducing him to her friends, proudly linking arms with him at cafes and markets. When people gave odd looks, she didn't care. Love made everything else small. But while Angela was imagining a future with Ivan, he was already growing restless. The excitement of being taken out for coffees or given gifts wore off quickly. Angela's flat was cramped, with old furniture and stained carpets. Her car was barely functioning, a battered hatchback that coughed every time she started it. Worse, Angela had credit card debt she kept quiet about, stretching her small income thin. Ivan had expected more from her, more money, more comfort, more ways to make his life better. Instead, he found himself surrounded by worn furniture, cheap food, and the suffocating smell of Angela's floral candles. Despite his frustration, Ivan kept the act going. He told her he loved her, that he wanted to marry her, that the two of them could build a life together. He smiled at her friends, kissed her in public, and kept his voice soft whenever she spoke about their future. Behind the mask, though, Ivan was already plotting something else. Angela wasn't his only relationship. Late at night, after Angela fell asleep on the couch with her half-empty wine glass, Ivan would scroll through dating apps on his cheap smartphone, messaging older women from nearby towns, women who looked wealthier, lonelier, and easier to manipulate. Each new conversation was a possible exit. One woman mentioned owning property. Another said she worked in finance. Angela had been a starting point, but Ivan wanted more than just legal papers. He wanted money, comfort, and security, all the things he had never had growing up. As if that wasn't enough, there was another pressure building behind Ivan's calm appearance. Back in Serbia, his family was in trouble. His younger brother had racked up serious gambling debts with dangerous people. Ivan received frantic messages begging for help. The threats were real. Men had shown up at his mother's door demanding payment. Ivan's hunger for money wasn't just about greed anymore. It was about survival, both his and his family's. Angela's love had become a trap. Her kindness, once useful, was now suffocating, and her debts and small, broken life offered nothing but disappointment to someone like Ivan, who wanted to climb out of the mud and into something better. Marriage wasn't going to be enough. Love certainly wasn't enough. What Ivan needed now wasn't a wedding. It was a way out. And slowly, as his resentment grew, so did his darkest thoughts. The more Ivan thought about his situation, the more dangerous his thoughts became. At first, marriage had seemed like the perfect solution. A quick wedding, a legal visa, and then he could decide what to do next. But now, standing in Angela's cluttered flat with its peeling wallpaper and broken appliances, the fantasy had rotted. Marriage would only tie him to her problems. It would link him to her debts, her fragile emotional world, and her small, slow life. Ivan didn't want to become trapped in someone else's misery. He wanted out. And more than that, he wanted to walk away with something to show for it. It was then that he began thinking about Angela's life insurance policy. One night, curled up beside him, Angela had mentioned that she'd taken out a new policy, naming him as the sole beneficiary. She thought it was romantic. She saw it as a symbol of commitment, a way of saying, "I trust you with everything I have." Angela had no idea what she had just handed him, a clean path to freedom. Ivan realized that with Angela gone, he wouldn't just be free of the relationship. He would be wealthy, or at least wealthier than he had ever been. The policy wasn't huge, but it was more money than he had ever seen in his life. It could pay off his brother's debts, buy him time, and let him start over somewhere else, maybe even with one of the other women he was secretly talking to online. But a sudden accident wouldn't be enough. Ivan knew that questions would follow if Angela simply died. He needed to make it look believable, like it was no one's fault. He spent late nights reading websites about accidental deaths, true crime stories, even online forums where people casually discussed hypothetical murder plots. The more he read, the colder his thoughts became. Angela's fondness for wine and her regular use of sleeping pills gave him an idea. If she took too many pills while drinking, it might seem like an accident or even a suicide. No one would suspect him. After all, he was the loving boyfriend, the grieving partner left behind. He tested his plan in small ways. He started crushing small amounts of Angela's prescription pills into her wine. Not enough to kill, just enough to weaken her. On more than one occasion, Angela complained of dizziness or stomach pain. Once, she threw up violently and had to go to the doctor. Ivan played the worried boyfriend, holding her hair back, rubbing her back, promising to take care of her. No one suspected a thing. The hospital staff chalked it up to food poisoning, and Angela trusted Ivan more than ever after his support. But things didn't go according to plan. Angela was stronger than he thought. Each attempt failed, and Ivan's frustration deepened. Time was running out. His family back home kept sending panicked messages, and his other affairs were growing impatient with his promises of a new life. Ivan realized that slow poisoning wouldn't work. He needed something final, something quick, and most importantly, something that couldn't be traced back to him. The next step would be bolder, colder, and irreversible. The plan for a final, fatal act formed in Ivan's mind with a clarity that both scared and excited him. No more pills, no more subtle poison. He needed something brutal but clean, something that could pass as a tragic accident. For weeks, he thought about how to do it. He studied places around London where accidents were common, but everywhere felt too crowded, too many cameras, too many people. What he needed was isolation, somewhere remote, somewhere beautiful, but deadly. That's when he found the perfect location, a series of cliffs by the sea, famous for their height and danger, places where unfortunate tourists had slipped before. He sold the idea to Angela as a romantic weekend getaway. She was delighted, flattered that he wanted to take her somewhere special. They packed small bags, bought cheap train tickets, and left the city behind. Angela wore a soft sweater he had once complimented, her face full of warmth and trust. To her, this was another step in their love story, a memory they could tell their future children maybe, or a beautiful photograph to frame on their wall. To Ivan, it was something else entirely. This was the ending. This was his freedom, finally within reach. They checked into a small guest house, one of those cozy places with creaky floors and the faint smell of old carpets. The weather was perfect, cool but not cold, the kind of air that made walking along the cliffs seem like a good idea. On their last evening, Ivan suggested a sunset stroll. Angela happily agreed. She was wearing her favorite shoes, a little worn but still good enough for a nice walk. She brought along a bottle of wine and 2 plastic cups, imagining the two of them toasting to their future. As they walked along the narrow, grassy path near the cliff's edge, the sea stretched endlessly before them, the waves crashing against the rocks far below. The sky was turning orange, then pink, the beauty of it making Angela smile. She held his hand tightly, unaware of the danger standing next to her, the storm of violence hidden behind his calm expression. Ivan was calculating every step, every second. They were alone. No one else had chosen this spot at this time of day. The isolation was perfect. As they reached a bend in the path, the ground sloping sharply toward the edge, Ivan felt his heart pounding, not with fear, but with grim determination. Angela leaned slightly forward, looking at the sea, the wind catching her hair, her laughter soft in the evening air. Then, with a sharp, sudden shove, Ivan pushed her. There was no scream, just the sound of slipping shoes on dirt and the thud of a body falling. Angela disappeared over the edge before she even understood what was happening. The sea below swallowed the noise, leaving nothing but silence. Ivan stood still for a moment, staring at the spot where she had been, breathing heavily. By the time help arrived, Angela's body had been smashed against the rocks by the waves. It looked like a terrible accident, another sad story of a misstep on dangerous cliffs. Ivan told the police she had been drinking, that she lost her balance. They believed him, for now.